heart cannot be lost, torn apart. Together we will pull each other through. Heroes got the power.
So, Death Eater was kind of the last straw, if you will. It was the anime that I was recommended when I finally decided, hey, you know what, I'm going to do this show, this video. And it pretty much always goes like this. Hey, you should watch Soul Eater. What's it about? It's an anime. Whoa. It's not that I don't like anime, it's just whenever I, on a whim, decide, hey, I'm gonna watch some anime, I click on a random anime or one that looks interesting, and then it turns out to be terrible or offensive or some combination of the two. So I think it might just be bad luck. The truth is, anime is an art form, not a genre. It's a means of telling a story, not a type of story. Saying I don't like anime is like saying I don't like cartoons or comic books or live action TV. That's not to say that animes don't share tropes or similarities between them, though. I think that might be the reason that some people are turned off by animes. It's the similarities, not the differences. A good example of this is when my cousin was showing me Princess Mononoke, and my sister, someone who couldn't care less about anime, walked in and mentioned that Ashitaka looks just like Haku from Spirited Away. Upon further investigation, this wasn't all that true, but the point is, animes don't click with some Westerners, and that's really what this show is about. Basically trying to identify these traits that cause people, myself included, to dislike certain animes, and then find animes that lack these traits, hoping to maybe bring it to people who haven't seen it before. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's talk about Soul Eater. The first thing I noticed was that Soul Eater has a premise that for some reason seems to be very popular in animes, which is the closed campus school. From what I can tell, it's a high school, though sometimes a college, where the characters are students. Oftentimes they'll wear uniforms, and a lot of the events happen around the school. Just off the top of my head, there's Code Geass, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Soul Eater, and Code Lyoko, and they all have this setting. There's nothing wrong with this setting, I just don't understand why it's so popular. Yeah, a lot of different stories can come out of a high school, and American TV has no shortage of these kinds of shows, but why the dorms? Why the uniforms? Anyway, so the school itself is run by the Grim Reaper. Obviously. And the students are all either weapons or weapon meisters. The students who are weapons aren't always weapons, though. They transform into weapons when they get into fights. So, who do the students fight? Well, soul-eating monsters. Of course. From what I can tell, it works sort of like a video game. Students kill monster after monster until they have 99 under their belt. At this point, they have to kill a witch, who are very powerful. After they have killed 99 monsters and one witch, the weapon becomes a death weapon, or more correctly, a weapon that the Grim Reaper uses. Whether this number has an intrinsic value or is just an arbitrary ranking of the weapon's skill is kind of left up to the viewer to decide. The Grim Reaper has the ability to take away these souls or points, sort of like the house points in Harry Potter. So, as far as I'm concerned, the number actually doesn't denote the skill, which is kind of true with a lot of things. In the first episode, we meet Maka and her weapon Soul. This gets to be really confusing as, from what I can gather, the show is named after this character, Soul. He eats the souls of monsters they slay, and in turn, they eat the souls of dead humans. Whether this makes more sense in the Japanese, or if it's meant to be a pun or joke of some sort, goes right over my head. For me, the word soul is used way too much in this show. There's the soul character, there are the human souls, there are the Kishin souls, which are the monsters who eat souls, then there are the witch souls, which are needed to become a death weapon. It gets to be ridiculous. Anyway, Maka is a young girl who hates her dad because he cheated on her mother with some random woman. Her dad is a Brock-like womanizer who is constantly swooning after women he's just met. And when he's not getting busy with the ladies, he's actually the Grim Reaper's main weapon. He's a scythe, a death scythe. Ooh. Soul, Maka's weapon, is kind of a laid-back, creepy, shark-toothed guy who always has his hand in his pocket and drool coming out of his mouth. I don't really get him. He's sort of a nothing-going-on character. With the exception of his occasional conflicts with Maka and conversations with his friend Blackstar, Soul is merely a weapon and doesn't seem to be much else. I don't know why he's the main character of the show. Blackstar, another character with a terrible name, is a young, hyperactive, self-absorbed character who is constantly talking about how great he is. At first, I didn't really like Blackstar, but since he has grown on me, and despite some of his attacks being kind of unbalanced, I like him. His special move especially, though, is really overpowered if you ask me. His weapon is a pair of chain-link sickles who go by the insanely Japanese name Tsubaki Nakasukasa. I complain about Soul and Blackstar having dumb names, but then we have characters like this who have long, realistic-sounding names. If you're going to have some characters with real names and other characters with dumb made-up names, why not make it consistent and go one way or the other? In real life, you can't avoid it if someone's name is Bill and they're friends with someone named Tsubaki, but in a fictional story, you can. It reminds me of the Game Boy game Fire Emblem, where you have a character named Lyn fighting next to a character named Dorcas. It's just unnecessary. Tsubaki is really underspoken and quiet. She only speaks up when she's trying to convince Blackstar that he's being a huge ass and he's going to get everyone killed. The two pairs take orders directly from the Grim Reaper, who is a goofy comic relief character. He only exists to give orders and smack people over the head with his giant comedy gloves. There's nothing wrong with this, and honestly, whenever he's on screen, I love it every second of it. Strangely enough, the Grim Reaper has a son called Death Jr., or Death the Kid. How did this happen? I don't know, maybe mitosis. It seems like it'd be pretty terrifying to have sex with the Grim Reaper. Death the Kid is one of the more interesting characters. He's slightly more skilled than the rest of the cast and uses 2 weapons instead of 1. His weapons are a pair of sisters who turn into 2 pistols. For style, Death the Kid holds these pistols upside down and fires them with his pinky fingers. And it looks so damn stupid. I feel bad because his action scenes tend to be quite cool, but he just looks so incompetent holding his guns upside down. Death the Kid is super obsessed with being perfect and making sure everything is symmetrical. If something even really minor is off, or he thinks it's off, he breaks down and cries. It's weird, but at least it makes him somewhat original, and gives him some internal conflict. The last character I have to mention is the mad scientist character, who early on becomes a professor at the school. He's always dissecting things and is covered in stitches. He even has a bolt through his head. And guess what his name is? No, really. Guess what his name is? It's Frankenstein. Yeah, I didn't make that up. Frankenstein? Really, Soul Eater? Come on, that's like 5-year-old made-up names. That's like if Superman's secret identity was Superman, you know? Or what if it was a character who was Dracula, but oh wait, he goes by the name Alucard. Yeah, that would be really...
And who are you?
My name is Alucard.
Let's just move on. As for the show itself, it kind of reminds me of Zatch Bell, which is pretty much the only anime I watched besides Pokemon when I was younger. The similarities I see between the two is that both shows revolve around 2 people who are soulbound or matched, by their spirits, are drawn together and they fight monsters. And that's kind of the theme of both shows. There are some problems though. A lot of the time in the fight scenes is spent just standing around and not moving. I know animation is expensive, but seriously, they spend so much time just standing around sizing each other up, it's really boring and tedious to watch. My other big gripe with the show is that they repeatedly make reference to real-life people such as Al Capone, Rasputin, and even Jack the Ripper. But these big-name, real-life characters are only on screen for a few minutes at the most. In Rasputin's case, he is introduced and then defeated in under a minute. What a goddamn waste! There could have been a whole episode, hell, there could have been a 3-parter based on this character. What's the point of introducing a character with a pre-established backstory only to kill him in such a short amount of time? I don't get it. I didn't watch a whole lot of it, but I might actually return and watch a little more. There's nothing too stupid or offensive in Soul Eater, and it's really nothing more than a fun action show. Sure, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's not really a problem in this case. So if you want some cool, usually well-animated action, I suggest Soul Eater. I'm gonna give it a thumbs up. Yeah, I think that's fair. It just keeps getting darker in here, huh? Jesus.